Last night, we fact-checked Texas Governor and Republican presidential candidate Rick, no relation, Perry's claims about his miraculous job creation in Texas. Today, a key member of the Obama administration challenged Perry's education record in the Lone Star State. Now, it seems that from grade school to graduate school, Texas students are suffering under the governor's leadership. Education Secretary Arne Duncan slammed Perry's handling of the Texas school system in a news interview with Bloomberg TV's Al Hunt.
Texas has really struggled, and I feel very, very badly for the children there. Texas may have the highest high school dropout rate, the lowest high school graduation rate in the country. Far too few of their high school graduates are actually prepared to go on to college. You've seen massive increases in class size. You've seen cutbacks in funding, and we have to educate our way to a better economy.
It's likely to get worse. Mr. No Relation Perry is using this year's budget to slash $4 billion from public schools, $46 million from the University of Texas alone. And UT is part of a statewide system that's one of the largest in the country. Perry and a Texas think tank are pushing a plan spearheaded by a Perry donor to overhaul the university system in a way that at least one dean warns will drive top students and faculty away. Now, all of the members of the system's Regents Board are Perry appointees, and among them, one of his top campaign donors, James Dannenbaum, a vice chairman. Now, Dannenbaum's engineering company has also been awarded multiple state contracts. Dannenbaum just happens to be one of Perry's biggest contributors, donating more than $320,000 to Perry. And he is certainly not alone. With me now is Matea Gold, staff writer for the Los Angeles Times and the Chicago Tribune, and a co-author of a revealing new piece on Rick Perry's biggest campaign donors. Matea, thank you for joining me tonight.
No, my pleasure, Melissa.
Now, Matea, your reporting found that of the $102 million in donations Perry received while governor, more than a third of that, about $37 million, has come from just 150 individuals and couples, and nearly half of those donors received business contracts, tax breaks, or were appointed to boards. Now, along with Dannenbaum, who stuck out to you as the biggest donors who seem to enjoy the kind of best karma after sending in these checks to Perry?
Well, to begin with, I think we were just struck by the enormous amount of money that Perry raised, as you pointed out, from such a small cadre of donors. But what my colleague Melanie Mason and I discovered was that there are really some pretty amazing benefits that these donors accrued as well. There's Bob Perry, a Texas home builder, longtime generous donor to conservative causes, whose attorney helped create an agency that was supposed to protect homeowners against shoddy home building. It was considered so dysfunctional by consumer groups it was disbanded. There's Red McCombs, who is a billionaire who gave $400,000 to Governor Perry, and a racetrack that he's invested in is slated to get $25 million for the next 10 years in state subsidies. And the most fascinating example we found was Harold Simmons, who is the second largest individual contributor to Governor Perry. He gave him over $1 million in the last decade. And Governor Perry signed a law that Harold Simmons' company, Waste Control Specialists, lobbied very hard to pass, which would allow a private company to operate a low-level radioactive waste disposal site in Texas. And then Perry appointees then granted that single license to WCS.
Now, so obviously that is incredibly icky, and particularly that final one, the idea that there is a potential nuclear polluting threat that's given sort of carte blanche to go into this community even after we have findings. But is there anything actually illegal about this donation and favors relationship, or is this just kind of how they do business in Texas?
Well, we found no evidence of illegality, and I would say, unfortunately for our system, it's not just the way they do business in Texas. This is a reality of the role that money plays in our political system in this country, and to varying degrees, we see examples of this across the political spectrum. To be fair, President Obama had dozens of bumblers in the 2008 campaigns who went on to get prominent positions as ambassadors or in his administration. But what was really striking, what we found in Governor Perry's contributors, was one that they gave so much money to him because Texas allows unlimited contributions, and that many of the benefits they accrued were personally lucrative for them or their own individual businesses.
So I think you make a really good point here, and particularly given that Governor Perry has been governor for so long, it's probably hard to find anyone in the state in business who hasn't at some point contributed. But that said, I know a spokesperson has said there's nothing particular that these donors got that other folks didn't get. All Texans are treated the same. Based on your reporting and your investigation, is that an accurate statement? Is it really true that there is no particular karma for these sets of donors?
Well, it's hard to know exactly how these donors would fare against folks who haven't given money without, being inside the process. But what's clear is that in his decade, more than a decade in office, Governor Perry has really effectively remade Texas through his appointments to these various agencies to create an incredible pro-business climate. And so that, to a large extent, is one of the greatest benefits that some of his donors have accrued, and most of them are the biggest corporate leaders in Texas.
Matea Gold, staff writer for the Los Angeles Times and the Chicago Tribune. Thanks for joining me to talk about the guy who's not related to me tonight.
My pleasure.